So you want to start collecting manga, but you're not exactly sure where to start, what to look for, what not to look for, and overall the do's and don'ts of collecting. I've been collecting manga for a very long time now, and as you can see right behind me, have amassed a bigger collection than I would have ever expected to have. And while collecting, I have picked up little things to do and to not do while collecting manga. So today I'm going to be telling you guys my best tips to start collecting manga or to further collect manga. Before we start talking about which series we should start collecting first, we have to think about where are we going to start collecting these series. There are a number of ways you can go about collecting your manga, but there are three main ones that I would recommend. The first option, and probably the easiest option, is Amazon or online overall. The internet has a lot of different ways you can go about buying stuff, and manga is absolutely one of them. The second option would be to find out what your local bookstore or bookstores are and to see how far they are from where you live. There's something about going in person and buying the physical thing and getting it right then and there and then going home to it. It just feels better than ordering it online. And for the third option, I'm going to recommend to look for smaller stores around your area. You'd be surprised at how many stores are specifically tailored towards anime and manga related stuff, or just simply how many comic books and manga related stores there are. And now that we've disclosed the places to buy manga, it's time to talk about the most important thing when you are starting to collect, and that is, what series are you going to start with? This is the thing that I see most people that want to start collecting manga have trouble with. Oh, what series should I start collecting? Should I grab my favorite or should I grab this one that I just started and really like? And while I don't have a precise and exact answer to give you, I'm going to give you steps to follow so that you can make the decision for what series you should start collecting. And the first thing you should be doing is thinking about your top 5 favorite anime. If you're going to start collecting manga, you're probably going to want to get something that you are at least familiar with, whether it be one you watched a long time ago that you really loved, or your new current favorite one that you are an absolute diehard fan for. This is what you're going to be looking at. Now, once you have your top 5 selection, the next thing you're going to want to do is do a little bit of research into the actual volumes. And what I mean by that is look at how many volumes there are of this series and sit down and ask yourself, is this something that I would want to collect and have up on a shelf of mine? And if you're a little iffy on it, then that just means that it's something that you may potentially want to start collecting later. Once you land on the series that you know you want to collect, the next thing you want to look for or ask yourself is, am I going to be able to collect this entire series? Because when you're looking at how long the series may be, it may seem a little difficult to actually end up collecting everything that they have. Some series have box sets and some don't, so it may be even more difficult, especially depending on how popular the series might be. Now, for me, I would love it if I had all of my favorite series in full. However, I have to think and realize, A, that's a lot of money, and B, I may not have enough space, so I might have to consider just getting some selective volumes. The first option you can do is simply just grabbing the first volume of the series and leaving it there. This is a perfect solution for series that you're just basically familiar with. Nothing crazy, no die-hard love for it, just basic likeness and keep it at that. For example, I watched through all of Hunter x Hunter and I only have volume 1 of it because I didn't want anything more, but I still wanted something from the series. The second option is very similar, and it's just instead of getting 1, getting 5. 5 is a very nice stopping point for any series because you can look at it on your shelf and be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it just looks nice while it's sitting up there on the shelf. I would recommend this for series that you like just a little bit more. A third option would be just to get the volumes that take up your favorite arc from that series. So for example, my favorite arc in Fairy Tail is the Tartaros arc. That takes up these volumes that you see here on the screen. So if I really wanted to, I would only grab these volumes and call it a day. The last option that I'm going to throw out is to simply just get the volume that has your favorite cover on it and call it a day. For example, my favorite volumes of Naruto and Fairy Tail are volumes 30 and 42, and I have both of them up on my shelves. And this takes us into our next tip, that being, how difficult is it going to be to collect this series? Manga has been around for a very long time, and some series just aren't that easy to find anymore. For example, during my high school years, I started reading this series called Rave Master. It's relatively old and was not extremely popular either overseas or there in Japan, but it was successful to the point where it did get an English release. And after I was nearing the end of reading the series online, I at least wanted to have the first volume just to be like, I have this, I read this, and the first one represents it. But even looking in the simplest of places like Amazon, I couldn't find it anywhere. And while eBay does exist as an option, and I'm sure that it was there, I wanted a definite answer. So I ended up having to compromise, and instead, I bought the last 3 in 1 and finished the series through reading this. This is an example of not being able to find what you may want very easily. The thing with some older series is that you may not be able to collect them fully. While on the topic of if you're going to be able to collect these series fully is how much is it going to cost and what is the least cost efficient way to go about collecting these series. Some series are really long and bigger and pricier than others. For example, if you want to start collecting Berserk, you can get the simple basic tankobon versions, or you could collect the deluxe editions. Obviously, these are both very pricey options because Berserk is a very long series and the deluxe editions are very big and very expensive. So at that point, that just comes down to you sitting down and deciding, do I want to collect the regular tankobons, or do I want to get the deluxe editions, or do I even want to collect the entire series as a whole? Now that we've gone over the big amount of steps that you should take for at least getting your first series, now it's time to talk about the aftermath, what to do next. Remember when I said this earlier on in the video? And if you're a little iffy on it, then that just means that it's something that you may potentially want to start collecting later. Now it's time to start looking to collect those ones and go by it the exact same process in which you did with your first series, that being selecting which volumes you want to get, whether it's the whole thing or some volumes or even just one of them. So now time has passed and you've collected a good amount of series by now. You have maybe your top 3, possibly even top 5, and you have the amount of volumes that you have wished to collect. But after that point, what comes next? You may be questioning and sitting there, well, I have my favorite ones. Which ones should I start collecting now? And honestly, the answer to that is whatever the hell you want to collect next. There's no right and wrong answer. You simply just go about it however you want. But if you want my personal recommendation, I'd say get a series you've had your eye on for a while now. There's absolutely no issue with starting a series with the manga and then either slowly continuing to read it or making your way into the anime. I've done both of these options before. I read the entire Soul Eater manga and started off with this volume, and I started off by reading this volume of One Piece and then made my way into the anime afterwards because I immediately wanted to see what happened next. Now that I've sat here and told you about the do's and what to look for collecting manga, it's time that I tell you about the don'ts and what to avoid when starting out collecting manga. This first one may sound like a no-brainer, but you'd be surprised at how many times even I myself have done this or how many times I've seen other people do this. And the first thing is that don't buy something you're not 100% on. You know how many times I've bought a manga and then just looked at it in my collection and I'm like, yeah, I don't really want this anymore. Can I get rid of it? Can I give this to somebody? Seeing that volume or several amounts of volumes on your shelf that you just don't want anymore is one of the worst feelings whenever you go ahead and look at your collection. Because when you're looking up at the shelf, you just see it and you're like, I could fill that space with something else that I would actually rather have up on this shelf. And then you take it down and you gotta put it somewhere, store it like under your bed or something. Look, you guys get the point. It's a situation that you want to avoid entirely. But here's the thing. It's most likely gonna happen regardless without you even realizing that, oh crap, it just happened. So if you find yourself in this situation, don't beat yourself up. Just remember and recognize your thoughts and what you were thinking while you were purchasing or looking at it at the store. And if you start getting similar thoughts to as you did when you purchased the one that you don't want, then you know that you probably should just leave it there on the store shelf. The next thing that I'm gonna recommend is don't overbuy every time you make a trip to the store. Personally, for me, I like to limit myself to 3 volumes per trip every time I go and grab more manga. And trust me, there are gonna be some times where you see some stuff that you need to catch up on or some stuff that you've been looking for, so that at that point you just gotta critically think, okay, which ones do I need to get? Keep in mind, it's not a bad thing to buy more than 3. Obviously, you create your own limit and whatever you're satisfied with, but just know that it's not a bad thing to go over your own limit just a little bit, as long as you have guaranteed the money to do so. The next thing that I'm gonna recommend not doing is don't just randomly buy series just because the cover looks cool or the title of it sounds interesting. Do your research beforehand. Even if you want to buy a series that you don't really care to read enough, but just kind of really want to look at more so for whatever own reason you have, I still recommend looking and doing your research into what the series is about, who it's made by, how long it is, and all that good stuff. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be the end of this video. If you all have enjoyed, please be sure to go ahead and drop a like down below. And if there are any points that I missed out on or any questions you may have, feel free to drop a comment down below. It's always greatly appreciated, and I can guarantee you I will answer all of them as fast as I possibly can. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Egan Media, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Take it easy.